Recent assaults on Russian positions in the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine have marked a significant shift in the conflict's tempo and geography. What began in 2022 as a large-scale invasion has evolved into a grinding war of attrition punctuated by cross-border strikes, drone warfare, and precision attacks on military infrastructure. For much of the conflict, fighting was concentrated in eastern and southern Ukraine, particularly in regions such as Donetsk Oblast and Luhansk Oblast. However, assaults on Russian positions, both in occupied Ukrainian territories and within Russia's internationally recognized borders, have expanded the battlefield. Ukraine has increasingly targeted logistics hubs, ammunition depots, air bases, and fuel storage facilities. These operations aim to degrade Russia's capacity to sustain frontline offensives. Strikes in areas such as Belgorod Oblast and Kursk Oblast have brought the war closer to Russian civilians, altering domestic perceptions of the conflict. One of the defining features of recent assaults has been the widespread use of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. Both sides deploy drones for reconnaissance and attack, but Ukraine's long-range drone operations have demonstrated increasing sophistication. Precision strikes against air defense systems and military airfields have been designed to stretch Russian resources thin. By forcing Moscow to divert air defense units away from frontline areas, these attacks create vulnerabilities elsewhere. Russia, for its part, has responded with intensified missile and drone barrages against Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. The leadership of Vladimir Putin has characterized cross-border strikes as acts of aggression, while Volodymyr Zelensky has framed them as legitimate acts of self-defense under international law. Western allies, including members of NATO, have provided military aid to Ukraine, but remain cautious about direct involvement. The expansion of hostilities into Russian territory raises concerns about escalation, particularly given Russia's status as a nuclear power.
Разом до перемоги! Перемога за нами!
Meanwhile, countries such as United States and Germany continue to debate the scope and conditions of weapons transfers, especially regarding long-range missile systems capable of striking deep inside Russia. Assaults on Russian positions introduce new risks. Increased cross-border activity may provoke harsher retaliation or broaden the conflict's scope. There is also the possibility of miscalculation, especially if strikes inadvertently hit civilian infrastructure. At the same time, these operations underscore the evolving nature of modern warfare, where drones, cyber capabilities, and precision munitions play an outsized role compared to traditional armored advances. As the war continues, assaults on Russian positions will likely remain a central feature of Ukraine's strategy. Whether they accelerate a negotiated settlement or deepen the conflict depends on military developments, political decisions in Moscow and Kyiv, and the resolve of international stakeholders. Four years into a brutal, full-scale invasion, the Ukrainian military has fundamentally rewritten the rules of modern warfare, utilizing advanced drone technology to maintain an unyielding, defiant stance against Russian forces. The grim, frozen battlefields of the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine present a surreal, dystopian tableau. Armored vehicles, encased in heavy steel cages and intricate netting, rumble through the darkness. These improvised defenses, often crafted from donated European fishing nets, serve as the first line of physical defense against the relentless swarm of explosive kamikaze drones that now define this conflict. Despite enduring relentless artillery barrages and horrific casualties over the past 4 years, the Ukrainian spirit remains remarkably unbroken. The prevailing narrative on the front lines is not one of impending defeat, but of lethal, highly calculated adaptation. The war has forced Ukraine to evolve from a traditional military force into the world's premier practitioner of asymmetric drone warfare. The traditional concept of a narrow front line has been entirely obliterated. In its place lies a massive, deadly expanse known as the kill zone, stretching up to 20 kilometers on either side of the forward positions. The skies above this zone are saturated with surveillance and first-person view (FPV) drones, making any movement, whether logistical supply runs or troop rotations, an intensely lethal gamble. Operating from hidden subterranean command centers, Ukrainian drone pilots utilize leading-edge software and fiber optic technology to bypass Russian electronic jamming. These pilots, observing the battlefield through banks of glowing monitors, can precisely guide a $1,000 approx. KES 130,000 drone to systematically dismantle a $30 million approx's KES 3.9 billion Russian main battle tank. Ukraine's ability to leverage cheap, abundant commercial technology into devastating military hardware has fundamentally leveled the playing field against a vastly larger Russian military apparatus. Their defiance is not merely ideological. It is deeply rooted in a technological edge that continues to bleed the invading forces daily. The battlefield of the 21st century is ruled by the sky, and down here in the mud, we have learned how to command it, a veteran Ukrainian drone commander stated. A Ukrainian counterattack in the southeast is gradually pushing back Russian advances and shows Kyiv still has significant fighting strength, according to an analysis published by the Wall Street Journal on February 24.
Давай, заботуем, пацан. Встань! Иди сюда, братан!
The publication recalled that Ukraine has refuted Russian claims of significant battlefield gains, liberating the city of Kupiansk in Kharkiv Oblast and recapturing several villages in Zaporizhia Oblast. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Total Russian losses amount to about 1.2 million people, including 325,000 killed, more than double Ukraine's losses. As the Wall Street Journal noted, while Russia has long relied on large payments to attract volunteers, there are signs that recruitment is now failing to keep pace with losses. Unidentified Western military officials concluded that recruitment into the Russian army is declining. Over the past 3 months, Russia has been recruiting 30,000 to 35,000 soldiers per month, but, according to an unnamed Western official, the number of killed and wounded exceeded that figure. Some analysts say the manpower shortage is one reason Moscow may struggle to achieve significant gains on the battlefield. According to CSIS, Russian advances in some directions are proceeding more slowly than during the infamous Battle of the Somme in World War I. In the city of Chasiv Yar in Donetsk Oblast, for example, Russian forces advanced just over 6 miles at an average rate of about 16 yards per day.
Be careful.
An anonymous Western official noted that last year, Russia managed to seize only about 0.8% of Ukraine's territory. Military intelligence services in several European countries believe Moscow will continue to gradually seize territory, even at the cost of very high losses. The WSJ emphasized that Russian troops are largely advancing on foot in groups of no more than a few soldiers, creeping forward under artillery fire and drone attacks while trying to survive and wait for reinforcements. The report said such tactics lead to heavy Russian losses and weak control over captured areas, giving Ukraine opportunities to counterattack. On February 10, Ukrainian troops reported successful counterattacks by the defense forces near the administrative border between Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts. At the same time, the spokesperson for Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces, Colonel Vladislav Voloshin, denied claims by Russian military bloggers about a Ukrainian counteroffensive. In a report on February 12, analysts at the Institute for the Study of War said Ukrainian forces were conducting localized counterattacks near the administrative border of Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia oblasts, taking advantage of limited communications in the Russian army due to the blocking of Starlink and Telegram. On February 20, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian troops liberated 300 square kilometers of territory in the south during counteroffensive assault actions. He did not specify the period over which the territory was recaptured. On February 23, Ukrainian Armed Forces Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi said that in the Oleksandrivsk direction, at the junction of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts, Ukrainian defenders since late January have regained control of 400 square kilometers of territory and 8 settlements.